It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, it's the Real Estate Breakfast right across Australia for our 2026 year and the middle of our working week, but the weekend, we've got that in our sights. Hey, don't forget about our Record a Message. This is a brand new service. You might just want to say hello, let us know where in the world you are listening to us from, and we would love to hear from you. Also, we've got our trusted list of real estate agents and real estate companies. Now, you might be coming back from overseas and looking to buy, or locally, you might be looking to sell and thinking, who do I list with? Who is the company that I'm going to trust with my business? Well, we've got this curated list. All you need to do is email us at myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what city and location that you are going to or you are already in, and we will match you with the right people. It's a Wednesday, 21st of January, and it's a happy birthday to Rove McManus, born on this day back in 1974. He's a Perth boy, and he's turning 52 years old. You know that we're all getting a little older if Rove is 52 today. Now, we've been talking this week all about the rental market, and the Sydney renters are feeling it once again. New data shows that the median rent has climbed to $760 a week, which means the average renter is paying about $1,600 more a year than they were this time last year. The REA Group tells us that Sydney is still the most expensive capital to rent in, at roughly $185 a week above Melbourne. And while the pace of the rental market growth has slowed, the problem is the base is already so high. Even modest increases translate into serious dollars. And what is the outlook? Well, unfortunately, rents are expected to keep pushing higher this year, especially for units where growth is still running well ahead of houses. It's an issue that is going to be with us for some time to come. Now, coming up next, we are back into the summer series and our time tunnel.
You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
Now, your business is Properholic. That is a very interesting name. I did say to you off air, the first thing that pops into my head is alcoholic. I'm sure you're not that.
Well, it depends on the day, really. There are lots of properholics out there, people who are addicted to properties. They spend their days scrolling through Domain or real estate. It was a business created with those people in mind.
Now, the divorcees are living under the same roof, as I mentioned. More couples are living, I think you've called it a silent divorce, sharing a house but not a relationship. Separate bedrooms, delayed breakups and financial limbo have become increasingly common since COVID has reshaped household affordability. This is, to a certain extent, kind of flying under the radar, but it's a massive, massive one, isn't it? Massive issue for people.
It is. I mean, there's a number of different reasons why people will stay under the same roof. Quite often, and it's referenced in the PropTrack article, it's called bird's nesting, and it is for the sake of the children if children exist in the relationship. You know, it is less destabilising for the kids to have parents stay in the same home. Having said that, though, we also understand the dynamics between the parents can be negative and have a negative impact on the children as well. So it really depends on the individual circumstances as to how successful that arrangement can be.
If you are breaking up, the chances of being able to get into the same neighbourhood where you might have lived for the last 30, 40 years even, that psychology of not being able to stay in place, how big a thing is that? I mean, you're talking to these people. They can be absolutely lost not being able to re-establish themselves in the same area.
It is a real concern for some of our clients. Having said that, of course, it's natural for people who are separating to downsize. It is becoming more rare with increased property prices that one member of the couple can stay in the family home. That does happen from time to time, of course, but typically we are seeing people are downsizing. They're moving into suburbs that may be within the general area but have more apartments. So that they're definitely downsizing and trying to stay as close as possible within the local area, but not always being able to do so.
Always amazes me, Nat, when somebody decides to get divorced, some people just want to quit that family home at all costs, just not realising long term the effect of the financial situation will be for them downstream.
We see a combination of things happen. We see people staying in the family home long after they should in some respects. But yes, definitely people rushing to quit, as you say. And that can also be an emotionally charged decision, obviously. Once you make the decision to separate, you just sort of, some people just want to get it done. They've been through emotional turmoil leading up to that moment. And it becomes a sort of knee-jerk reaction, I suppose.
This article that came out from PropTrack, I hadn't actually heard the term, and you were the one that raised it, bird nest parenting, which is, as you say, reflects the shifting family dynamics. They do that because children can stay in the family home while separated parents rotate in and out of the home. It's a really interesting concept, that rotating in and out. Sometimes it's about cost, other times it's for completely the stability of the kids. And I guess that only works if the parents can actually talk to one another.
It does rely on amicability between the parties. And in fact, I was an advocate for bird's nest parenting to the extent that I did so myself when I separated from my ex-husband. And my kids were quite little at the time. We did have the benefit of having an investment property that was close by. We both had to share the family home. We both had to share the investment property that we vacated. And it was tough. Living standards vary between separating partners quite often. And I can say this from my own experiences. In fairness, it was a decision we made for the benefit of the children, and that has proven to be a good decision, I feel, long term.
I really feel for Sean here. He's 35. He's already been on the property ladder. Unfortunately, we don't know what the personal health reason was, but he had to sell. Obviously, he couldn't service that loan. And the parents, they want to do the right thing by their son, but they also don't want to find themselves in a really dicey situation if the bank steps in and then, they've got to sell their property.
It's a very common issue that we're facing and we're seeing. You mentioned at the beginning of the show about the median house price and unit price and those increases, in a very short period of time. If you're looking at Randwick, for argument's sake, I think you said the median apartment price is about 1.2 million and rising. It's a common issue, and we're seeing it with not only people that may be looking to buy a second one or unfortunately had to get rid of the first one in this case, but first home buyers where the bank of mom and dad is not prepared to step in. And then, what are the alternatives? Thankfully, it looks like, rates are coming down, which is positive. But then the serviceability that the bank looks into and says, can this individual actually afford not only the deposit, but can they actually service the loan going forward? A lot of the cases when I'm presented with this issue, and again, as I mentioned, my job is to help buyers and sellers. A lot of the opportunities are you actually using the right person from a loan perspective? And unfortunately, a lot of first home buyers may just go to a bank that they may be using or have used over the years for their savings account, and they go to one bank and one provider. And that bank may actually look at it and go, no, unfortunately, we're not going to give you the loan. What we've actually seen of late is, if you've got a really good mortgage broker and they can delve into your personal situation and come up with alternative lenders. One case in mind, about a week and a half ago, we've actually got Loan Market, which is part of the Ray White network. And we gave it to a Loan Market lender, and they actually came back with some really great solutions for this individual.
What a lot of parents do decide to do, Graham, and you've probably seen this, is they say, right, we've got to sell the family home so that we can extract the money out of it. We'll then go to a smaller property, and yes, we can then buy our son, our daughter, their property, in many cases buy them outright and then just have them rent it from them, sort of a rent to buy sort of situation. They're going to get it in the end anyway.
I mean, that is a possibility, absolutely, and I am seeing that. But remember, the parents need to be at a point in their lifestyle where they're prepared to actually downsize, or is it a sea change, etc. But what happens in the case where they're not ready to do that? So there are opportunities and alternatives. I mean, you could look at, do you remortgage your property? Do you reverse mortgage your property? Can you take equity out of your property? And again, I think what I always come back to is if you've got some really good data, you can make educated decisions. Yes, there is a risk. Property prices aren't going down. But if you're making the right decision with the right data and you can minimize the perceived risk for that parent, which enables them then to reverse mortgage their property and put equity into another property, there are alternatives to having to sell up and take all the risk on.
It's not that easy to move to other countries. So some people say, oh, you don't like it here, leave. Well, it's not that easy. And when I travel, I always ask myself, could I live here? What are they doing better? What are they doing worse than back home? I think I've talked to you previously to Southeast Asia, and that'll get me up to 44 countries. I have some on my list, would certainly consider if it came to that.
Okay, so rattle off a few of the countries that you're going to.
I'm starting in Southeast Asia in Bangkok. I have a friend who just moved there. So he's actually one of the people we're talking about. He sold his condo in Santa Monica and moved at the beginning of the year. And I said, I'm going to make good on my threat to come visit you. And then I'm going to do a big circle through northern Thailand and then into Laos, over to Vietnam, back to Cambodia, and then to Thailand for a couple days before flying out. So I'm really interested in studying the basics of 4 different languages because I don't want to rely on Google Translate. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot of people have moved into Vietnam. That is one of the countries, very cheap, of course, comparing it to the US. And that is something that you will no doubt be sort of looking at. Cost of living, the housing market. How interesting.
Yeah, in Vietnam, to your point, it's significantly cheaper than Thailand. Thailand's tourist numbers have been falling this year, and Vietnam's are up. And a lot of it has to do with price.
Well, the US housing market still appears stuck in neutral. Of course, with millions of homeowners holding ultra-low mortgages, they're just simply unwilling to give up. The economics, it is just a fact of life. It just does not make sense in many cases. So what is it going to take, Patrick, to finally get this market moving again, do you think?
I think it's going to be lower interest rates. Right now, the rates have dipped, the lowest in 10 months. So that's good. But, they're still in the mid 6s, and they probably need to be a lot lower than that to get a lot of people off the sidelines. Fannie Mae came out with a revised forecast this month, and they're not seeing us dipping below 6.5% until 2026. So it's still going to be kind of some rough riding. And so I know builders offer a lot of incentives. You're now seeing that with existing home sellers of existing homes to be able to compete. I know that was just a drop here and there a couple years ago. And now I'm seeing it's becoming a lot more commonplace. So that's a big part of it. And then you also have the lock-in effect. At the end of 2024, Realtor.com estimated that over 80% of homeowners with mortgages has interest rates below 6%. That's now slowly declining because people have to move anyway. Life happens for various reasons. So it could approach 75% by the end of this year. So as that starts to wane, plus you have mortgage rates declining, that could open the market up a bit more. We're certainly going to pay close attention to that.
Yes, I think everyone arrives at an auction if they're intending to bid, wanting to stay calm and confident. As I said, it's such an unusual situation that many people don't find themselves in on a regular basis. So keeping those nerves in check and keeping the head cool and clear can be a struggle. Key to it, having some sort of connection with your agent and find out who the auctioneer is. In our case, the agent on the ground is the auctioneer. So it does give the buyers an advantage to feel that there is a relationship, that there is some understanding, and there's been some, connection and engagement with what they're trying to achieve and what we're trying to achieve for our vendor.
Yes, and as I say, in this particular market, buyers, more than ever, they need to set a firm budget, know the property's true value, and avoid, just getting swept up in the drama that drives prices higher than expected. How important do you think that is in this market? It's always important, obviously, but you've got to set that firm budget and know where you are.
It's always a great practice to do your pros and cons and find out really what are your deal breakers and what sort of options you may have within the property search. What is your ideal? What is your, absolute most fantastic top priority property that you would like to live in? But what else would work for you and at what budget points? I think sometimes people get excited when they're given, approval for a finance to a certain level, and they'll go out to purchase right at that rim of the level. And possibly there are other options that would work just as well for the home. Knowing how many years you intend to stay in a property is also very useful if you're going to be there for a long term, or if you're going to be there as a stepping point to the next point of journey in the property market, is also very good information for you, so that you can have a bit more of a pragmatic approach to the auction at any given time.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.